All right, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Hey Guys. So we're moving on our series on onshape, and we've talked about in the last episode we talked about rectangles and lines and how to dimension them. And I wanted to point out something and see if you notice this. When I dimension this rectangle, you'll notice that all the lines that created the rectangle turned to black. Well, why didn't they turn to black when I dimensioned the line? Well, because the line, while it may be 100 millimeters long, whoop, didn't mean to make that line, it isn't anchored in place, so it can move around. So what Onshape does, and you'll notice that with the square, there's nothing I can do to the square or the rectangle. What Onshape does is when something is still free to move in any way, if I could change the length or I can reposition it, it stays blue. Once it's all locked in, it turns black. Now we'll go over some more of this later when we talk about constraints, but just so you understand, that's why that line is blue and these lines are black. We always want to try to achieve all our parts to be black. All right, so let me get rid of that line. And now we're going to talk about extruding. We're going to talk about what it takes to take this thing from being two-dimensional to three-dimensional. Now, since this is the first thing that I've created, and it's the only thing that I created in this sketch, I can just, without hitting the green check on the sketch, I can just simply go to extrude. And when I do, a whole new environment opens up. You'll notice that all the tools across the top have changed. These are now all the tools for working in 3D. And I get a new dialog box over here. Now, because I hit extrude and it's the first sketch, Onshape is going to fill this in as a new part being made. And you'll notice that down here, for the first time, I have something under my parts. And that says that I have one part. That's this part. It also, across the top, has solid, surface, and thin. For right now, we're only going to concern ourselves with solid. You want to always make sure that when you are creating something in Onshape and you go to extrude or any way you can make it three-dimensional, that it's being made as a solid. Every once in a while, and for reasons I can't quite understand, it might switch over to being a surface, and you do not want a surface. All right, so let's look at the rest of this. So because we just went straight from the sketch into extrude, Onshape is assuming that I want everything that I did in that sketch to be extruded. So it's going to select all of that. If that's not what you want, you can hit the X in that little box and that'll deselect it. But it's the only thing I have, so of course that's what I want. From here, you'll see this funny word for this that says blind. So these are the different ways you can extrude. Now you'll notice that most of these seem to mean that there should be something else there. So up to next, up to face, up to part, up to vertex. None of that applies because we only have this one thing. And then through all doesn't really make sense when we're trying to create some part. That actually will come up when we do a remove. So for right now, we're going to just go with blind. So what does blind mean? Well, blind means that it is going to go as far as you tell it to go without concern for what may be in the way. That's the way I like to think of it. It can't see what's in its way. It's just going to go that full distance regardless. So then the next line below that is how far we're going to extrude it. So if I change my view over here to isometric, you can see how thick this is. So we're working in millimeters, and right now it defaults to 25 millimeters. So I can either type in a value here. I could say, no, I want 50, and it will go up 50, or I can grab this arrow and dynamically, where I can actually see it happening, obviously there's a little lag, but I can push it up and pull it down. So if you're kind of just going by what looks right, you're going to go like that. Now, most of the time, you're not going to go just by what looks right. You're going to punch in a number and you're going to go with that. Now, there's more that you can do from there. You can, if you check the check marks, you can decide the direction you want it to go. Now that usually requires something else to reference to, so we're not going to worry about that. We're not going to worry about starting offset because again, that requires something else being there. But we do have the ability to go symmetric at this point. And what that's doing is it's going in equal amounts from our sketch, both up and down, to give us a total of 50 millimeters. So it's not 50 millimeters in both directions. It's actually 25 millimeters in both directions to give us a total of 50 millimeters. All right, so that's what symmetric is. And then this last thing is draft. What is draft? Well, as you can kind of see from what just happened when I clicked draft, draft kind of bevels the sides of the extrude. In this case, it's making it bigger. I can reverse it and it's going to make it go from the size I started with to smaller. I can change the degree that this line is. So right now it's 3. Maybe I want 45 degrees. That's going to produce something like that. That's pretty cool. So that's what draft is. Draft will bevel, it will angle the edges of the extrusion, either going in a positive direction, going a bit larger than my initial sketch, or going narrower than my initial sketch. So when everything looks like you want it, you hit the green check, and there you go. All right, so that's the first type of extrude. In the next video, I'll go over some more extrudes. All right, thanks guys.